Hello and welcome to the 17th episode of Office Hours at iZooto. Today we have with us Sandeep Balani, country head India of at OutBrain. Hi Sandeep, how are you?
Hi Vivek. Thank you for inviting me. I'm doing really well, and thanks for having me here.
Thank you so much, Sandeep, for joining us. Excited about today's conversation, right? In fact, I remember when we were thinking about structuring this, right? We had so many topics in our head. We were like, "Okay, we can call this Native 101,
Right.
right? We could call this, why is Native the most, why is Native the most fast growing advertising, platform right now, right? We had so many options, right? But then I think the ones that the team picked, that how Native is giving search and social, right? It's due fight,
Right.
right? Simply because recommendations is so powerful, right? In fact, I was looking at what Shopify had launched yesterday. Shopify
Right.
launched their marketplace called Shop,
Right.
and there were a bunch of people, who sort of came out and declared it to be the next Amazon killer. And
Absolutely.
it's just unfortunate, right? What makes Amazon Amazon is not the fact that they have a marketplace and they have this insane crowd and
Absolutely.
right. What makes Amazon is the technology of presenting me with the exact right book which I want to read when I just bought a book, right?
Right.
Their recommendation engine is what is most, it's most coveted piece of technology that existed for the longest time, right?
Absolutely.
They have patents over it, right? Amazon's recommendation is by far, hands down, the most amazing piece on the internet, right? And recommendation exactly is what sort of also drives today, pretty much every content that piece that you and I sort of consume. In fact, I
Exactly.
don't even recall last time I went to the browser and typed in a website's
Exactly.
name. That
Yeah.
just doesn't happen anymore, right?
Right.
Native is it's like content recommendations is here.
Right.
Point being that, right?
Right.
Recommendations are just so core to everything that we do. Right
Absolutely.
from buying products, seeking references, recommendations is what we sort of always thrived on, right?
Absolutely.
And then what sort of is most exciting, when I look at companies and brands like Outbrain, is that how you're sort of taking that concept and layered on top of it a beautiful marketplace to say you have stories, here is the audience. Why can't we marry these stories with the audience and help the platforms monetize this,
Right.
which is kind of the beauty here, right? But then help me understand, right? You have been with Outbrain for a while now, right?
Yes.
Outbrain is now what, a decade old or just over that?
Yeah. We started in 2006, so more than the decade.
Okay, more
Yeah.
than a decade, right? Yeah. So you sort of seen two official, uh, you know, recessions already as a
Absolutely.
company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I
You
mean,
have
that's why we are fortunate that the company has seen tough times and we are ready for, better times. So yeah.
exciting. So Sandeep, how did we get here? I think that's like a very important question for the audience.
Yeah,
How?
absolutely. So, as you know, our ecosystem has always been evolving. In 2006, the way our CEO envisioned this is that, while just like you're reading a magazine on print, right? While you're browsing the internet, you should see some interesting articles to read next. And that's how the content recommendation piece came in. And where, Outbrain started showing you certain interesting recommendations on the publisher website where we power our technology on the publisher website and the data on the publishers reveals the best content that you can read next, right? Then definitely marketers want to make the most of the moment there, and they started using that space to drive their advertising content recommendations, and that's how this space started growing and evolving. However, users have evolved significantly over that period of time, right? And what has worked in our favor, and especially in the space of native advertising, is gaining the user trust, right? And we are in the space of open web and empowering the open web ecosystem, right? And this open web ecosystem is which is the alternative medium towards the duopoly, and where we do see a lot of traction from advertisers and insights from advertisers coming in. So yeah, over the period of last decade, the way it has evolved is it's evolved into native discovery, where native has started growing beyond just the publisher ecosystem. We have started, empowering a lot of platforms. Definitely, iZooto being one of our partners as well. Right, so we are empowering a lot of platforms. Giving the ecosystem a leeway to scale up beyond just the publisher ecosystem. So basically, we are following the user journey. Right, very very interesting the way users are. Not many users right now type a website name and actually go to a website. They might browse content on app aggregators like Daily Hunt, right, or other app aggregators, right? So that's how the ecosystem is evolving, and it's very important for platforms who are into native ecosystem to evolve along with the users. But yes, in the entire piece, the most important part of the piece is the user, where Outbrain as a company believes in ensuring that the user trust is maintained, because if the user trust is maintained, then only repeat users will be kind of coming in. Apart from that, you kind of tend to become a regular network, which doesn't create any value, right? So where I think Amazon, Netflix, and even companies like Outbrain are evolving into is firstly respecting the user journey. Like you mentioned, anyone can build a marketplace, right? Anyone can patent it and build a technology, but till you don't understand what the user needs, like you rightly said, Amazon knows what you need next, right? Netflix knows what kind of content you want to watch next, right? Similarly, if in the native advertising space we do not evolve ourselves to the user journey, I think that needs to be respected, that needs to be trusted. The user needs to look at us as a platform, or the space that they look on the publisher website, that yes, I can click on it, yes, I can read it, and yes, it will be interesting for me to go to the next article on this particular space. So yeah, that's how the space has overall evolved.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. So, Sandeep, so you sort of spoke about one, the pure play content recommendation itself, right, and then second, an a simple natural extension of that turning into an advertising opportunity for the marketeer, right? I
Right.
remember, I think it was Neha from our team, right, who coined this this incredible term, which was when a marketeer saw an empty space, what did they think about it? Right. Let's put an ad out there, and
Absolutely.
it's true, right? To capture people in their moment is important, right? Given the fact that we live in a such a attention scarce times, right?
Yeah,
Every moment
it's moment
is
marketing. It
it's
has a
moment
it has a term,
marketing,
yeah.
right? In fact, I don't think there is anything left right now. Anything else left right now? Cold outreach is just so freaking difficult, right? So
Exactly.
native has moved fast over the last decade specifically, right? Native has become more mature as well in terms of technology. Native is now also available on programmatic as well, right?
Right.
What's the market share that native currently has in terms of the dollar that the advertiser is currently willing to spend out there in the market? That's my first question for you,
Yeah.
right? And the second one, as a follow up, is that how do you see that changing? Right? I know you guys have been giving a really solid fight to the classic of Facebook and TikTok and some of these guys, right? It's like Facebook and Google. But
Yeah.
then how do you sort of see that market share evolving in the next decade now?
So in answering your first question, in terms of market share, I mean, definitely it's different for different geos, right? As I said, we have been having significant presence in countries, in the continents of US, Europe, right, where we did have an acquisition of Legatus as well, right? So in those continents, the market share is really high. Vis-a-vis India is still a growing market for us, and the way India is evolving is very unique from the way other markets are evolving, and which is why Outbrain has given its due respect to India as a market. Like you have similarly seen platforms like iZooto again. Very few continents and very few markets are evolving as fast as the Indian ecosystem is, right? And India is a very tech-heavy market, right? And here you're seeing very fast disruptions from players like Geo, TikTok, like you rightly mentioned. So India, we are still gauging how the market is evolving and how our market shares are evolving according to that. Because as I said, in the last 3 years, specifically after 2016, the changes have been very, very drastic. Not only in terms of technology like geo coming in or the macroeconomic situations changing in. today, as I said, we are very fortunate that digital revolution happened during 2016, because this Zoom call wouldn't have been possible without that, right? So honestly, in the last 2-3 years, the way things have evolved, gauging the right market share is difficult,
Yeah.
because we are still at a very significant growth stage, and the native ecosystem continues to evolve in India. We are still integrating ourselves to very large platforms.
Right.
Yeah, the supply side ecosystem has grown significantly, but the demand side ecosystem is where we still need to catch up to a lot of advertiser interest. Like we do see, you mentioned programmatic as a big demand growth for us. We launched Zementa as a platform in the Indian market, and also we are right now available on DV360 to buy. So I think those things are really interesting for us, and video advertising is something we are trying to still capture in the Indian market. So all these trends are very interesting for us, but in India we do not have a right market share number where we are still trying to grow the market. So, yeah.
Got it. Got it. So Sandeep, I want to just stay there for a moment and talk to you a bit more about video advertising.
Yeah.
Right. The one thing that this decade is going to be about, except COVID, will be videos.
Absolutely.
Right? There is video has blown right through the water. Like there is TikTok, there is Facebook Live, there is Insta Live, there is YouTube Live.
Right.
Right. And all of these platforms are sort of trying to monetize themselves, right? And video advertising is just a natural thing, right? And given the fact that it's video, it sort of comes packaged as a story most of the times, right? Which sort of makes it way more closer to the native format, which is, can you tell a story, comprehensively, compellingly, and attract the user towards your product or service or whatever you're trying to sell, right? How do you see this changing? Obviously the whole native market sort of matures, right? It gives a chance to people to sort of adopt native as a platform, native as a medium, right? But then how do you sort of see this playing against platforms like OutBrain, who have been championing native on the web inherently, right? But then suddenly these platforms have massive video platforms, massive reach, massive audiences already existing on their video products, right? How do you see the sort of playing overall? Yeah.
So definitely, OutBrain, we have two offerings. One of them is patented. That is the click-to-play offering. Like you said, video is in native is all about telling a story, right? But none of these video platforms that we have seen allow anything above 15 to 30 second of advertising, right? The click-to-play offering that we have come out with allows you to upload video up to 5 minutes. Right. So, and we had a few advertisers like Skoda who did the entire auto car review on the video segment. Right. So yes, it is interesting. Yes, we are also testing a few models in this particular space. How it will evolve, we'll need to see the user journey, how they are growing in the publisher ecosystem. But definitely the way we are trying to project is just like you mentioned, we are trying to say a story. But that story cannot be, we do not believe that story just can be said within a 15-second, or you're trying to plug in into a TikTok video, right? Or how the journey. But yes, how a lot of marketers, like we spoke about moment marketing, they are trying to capture those moments. Like we have suddenly seen a rise in the coronavirus videos of people making some, funny videos, memes about coronavirus. So, all those kind of is rising, but we haven't seen a lot of rise in the video spends yet on these segments. So we'll need to see how the advertisers are kind of behaving on that. But yeah, I think this year there'll be a lot of changes happening since we do not have one of the biggest event on videos, that is IPL, which is kind of getting postponed. So we'll do see a lot of diversification of budgets is what we predict. And I think after the lockdown opens, we'll get more visibility on that. So we are just hoping that a lot of those budgets come to us.
Right. So, okay, great answer. And I sort of buy that completely, right? Because video, while everybody sort of wants to do video, people haven't sort of figured it out yet, right? It's still like a wishful thinking thing as well, right? The sort of next immediate question which pops up in my mind is this, right? Video obviously sort of both video and native are so close to the brand teams within a particular advertiser's ecosystem, right? The brand teams are very close to storytelling. They have the mandate to go out there and create awareness, build awareness, go out there and capture top of the mind of their audiences, right? So I'm sure you would definitely get a lot of brand spending, being shifted from, let's say, a Google or a Facebook to native as a media, right?
Absolutely.
Uh, have you seen this also happening on the performance side as well, right? And if yes, what sort of driving, like, how have brands, looked at this as a performance channel?
Right. So, I mean, the most interesting thing about tech is that you can measure it, and that's the most interesting thing about digital as a medium, right? So definitely you can measure everything, right? Even performance from video. Like again, I mentioned click to play offering. So you have a action where you can click on the video, and then you can go onto a landing page and register yourself. The categories we are specifically seeing a great success in terms of video performance is the OTT and online gaming segment, right? Because these two categories are 100% online. There's no offline interactions on these particular categories. So we have seen online gaming advertisers specifically requesting for video advertising to do performance for these advertisers. And OTT again, most of the OTT channels, if you have seen, they are advertising. They are basically advertising their content. So like if Amazon has come up with some great content, they'll advertise that content. So it's basically content heavy, the content which is right now available on the OTT platforms. So I think they are seeing a lot of performance coming in directly from that content being advertised. So yeah, these two categories we have seen significant video performance. Most of the other categories are like we had a lot of big auto advertisers advertising via video towards performance. Some of them did see some success, some of them did not. So they are still in the testing phase of how this category evolves. As last year was not a great year for auto as a segment, and this year as well. So we are still seeing advertisers not testing a lot. So they are sticking to their basics and just doing what basics is all about. But yeah, video performance is a big medium which will evolve, because after this particular event as well, we are going to see a big shift of users going online. So that's a big segment we see evolving.
Oh yeah, right from TCS, which has declared work from home
Right.
becoming a part of their core work culture, to brands like Skoda, who have literally declared war on
Absolutely.
print and every other medium. Like, forget
Absolutely.
about it. It's going to be digital first, full stop. Right. I
Absolutely.
think the way Indians flipped from desktop to mobile in
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
That's how the world will sort of just flip suddenly to
Right.
digital. Right.
Right.
This has been a bigger catalyst
Absolutely.
of adoption so far.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right. So also, let's sort of keep this simple, right? Native versus social versus search, right? All three have their own advantages, right? Their own
Absolutely.
pros and cons, right?
Absolutely.
When it comes to the guy who has a dollars in their wallet and says, I want to spend it out there, right?
Right.
What's their, and let's sort of focus on the hotter categories right now, digital products, right? Products, let's say like edtech, for example, right? Uh, uh, how are these advertisers allocating their spends right now? What's that market share is which is native able to attract towards itself?
Right. So I'll start each medium at a time. So let's start with search. Search is purely intent-based lead generation, right? So if a user knows about the product, they come onto Google search, they kind of go to the page and register for it. But there is no additional, when an advertiser wants to reach out to users who are not intending to come to their website, search generally doesn't work as a medium for them. Right. Social is a great medium. A lot of advertisers use social marketing for certain categories. It works wonders, right? And it is a big channel for them. But off late, we have been speaking to advertisers, and they are kind of either seeing a stagnation or not seeing too much of a growth from social. And that's where we have seen a big upsurge in terms of advertisers moving towards native. We have seen great growth in gaming, real estate, and OTT category overall, and finance, insurance, because insurance is moving completely to digital right now. So in these particular categories, native has been the third layer right now. In few advertisers, we are around 20% of their budget. In few advertisers, who have a native only spend, we can go up to around 70% of their budgets as well. But yeah, majority of the advertisers we track between say 15 to 35% of their budgets. Right, that's the range I would say. It depends on the categories and the kind of advertiser or the focus that they have on native. Right, because native is relatively new to social and search, so it's still growing. Some advertisers do know how to use these platforms much better than others. So yeah, it ranges between that range.
It's actually very interesting, right? How this is sort of becoming the third pillar
Yeah,
in the digital advertising ecosystem. Because I remember 2015, 14, 15, 16, right? It used to be pretty much 90% Google, 70% Google, 20% whatever chump change on Facebook, right? And 10% on the longer tail of affiliates, some direct relationships with publishers here and there, and so
absolutely,
on,
absolutely.
right? To sort of to sort of consolidate 13% of demand in one single channel, in one single medium. I think that's
Yeah,
an incredible sort of speaks volume about the capability, right?
absolutely.
And the potential it has for the next decade as well, right?
Right.
Super. So Sandeep, so we sort of spoke about the journey. We spoke about how the market is adopting to this, right? What's the play on the video side and stuff like that, right? In terms of just format itself, I know there's a classic battle with the millennial crowd, right? Which is, hey, millennials don't read, right?
Right.
Millennials want that 10-minute, 10-second TikTok video, right?
Right.
If you can catch them in 10 seconds, you can catch them, otherwise forget about it, right?
Right.
There's a class with, as somebody who wants to spend money, and this includes me as well, right?
Right.
How should advertisers look at the format or the content format itself while sort of picking up their native bits? Is it text? Is it a visual story? Should it be a video always? What's that magic combination?
So right now we would say image plus text. I think that works. That is at its peak right now, but it's moving towards video, right? As we see, but the ecosystem is yet to evolve to like 70% of video and lesser of text and images. But right now the peak would be very good images along with text, right? That's the right combination. But yeah, you need to have a mix of slight bit of video, right, into the way you are kind of putting your budgets in, because some categories do work really well on video, like I mentioned about online gaming and OTT, right? These advertisers initially we were doing only images and text, right? But they started testing with slight bit of video budgets, and suddenly they saw significant scale with videos. So it's very important to have a test budget on video. But yeah, right now at the peak is images and text, because the ecosystem is yet to evolve, the Indian ecosystem, in terms of user and the smartphone penetration. I think those things are yet to evolve to a certain extent.
It's sort of also got to do with how prepared are brands actually for video advertising themselves as well, right?
Absolutely.
Do they have the right creatives? Do they have the right right video production in place to sort of actually put out those video creatives, right? Text and
Absolutely.
visual has been there for a while.
Yeah, and video production is quite expensive. So
Yeah,
right now there are a lot of cheaper mediums coming in, like you mentioned, TikTok videos,
yeah.
right? Once these kind of videos come in, it would become easier for advertisers to come up with a lot of video advertising as well. So I think that ecosystem is yet to evolve, as I mentioned.
Hmm.
So yeah, like you rightly said, we need to wait for that.
Interesting. Right. Now, I was on a call yesterday at a panel, Optimize Optimism, and
Yeah.
then I think there was Sarah from your US team, right?
Okay. Yeah.
She was there on the panel as well,
Right.
and she sort of spoke briefly about the kind of impact that they have seen as on OutBrain as a business right now. Uh, and she sort of mentioned that the bottom has already been hit, and we
Right.
are past the bottom right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think we are looking at a V-shaped curve or a W-shaped curve right now? Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, how fast do you see? And again, I understand both of us are playing in uncharted waters right now.
Absolutely.
But for the sake of it, right, if we have to make a prediction, right, and
Yeah.
it's sort of put $100 right now on the bet,
Yeah.
what would be your your best possible prediction on
Yeah.
this?
I feel
Yeah.
like an analyst on CNBC right now. So, but Yeah, I mean, so honestly, if you're asking only about digital medium and digital advertising per se, I do feel that we'll see a V-shaped recovery. But all the advertising mediums are affected differently. So I'll very uniquely speak about native advertising and digital ecosystem on native. So we are predicting a V-shaped recovery, but definitely we are in a tough times and testing waters, like you said, uncharted territories for all of us. It also depends on how, as a business owner, you are able to pivot your business, right? Different countries and different geos are getting impacted very differently, depending on the severity of the lockdown in that particular continent or the country, right? So Germany, you are still open, you are still going out. Italy, you're still going out, right? India is the most severe lockdown globally right now as we speak, right? And how as a business head are you able to pivot your business, open up new categories, reach out to new advertisers, is something that will determine whether it's V, whether it's W. It can be a W as well, because if you're opening up certain categories, again you're seeing some challenges in those categories performing on your network. It can again go down and again come up. So as I said, it is very geo specific depending on the severity of lockdown and how we are coming out of this particular situation. But my predictions would be V, because right now what we are seeing is print and outdoor are going to be impacted pretty heavily. Right, print, like in Mumbai, you do not have any newspaper coming into your houses, right? So just imagine the kind of impact that print advertising would go through. And those budgets definitely, the beneficiaries is either going to be a bit of television, but majority will come to online. That's what we feel.
My penultimate question for you.
Yeah, please.
Do you think we will come out of this situation, this pandemic, with few lesser papers in our hands?
Few lesser
Papers in our hands, print
papers.
papers, newspapers in our hands.
Uh, it's a difficult one. In India, it's very unique because it's been a growing market. But I do feel we will have lesser papers, yes, because not because of that the advertising medium will grow, but because a lot of companies are over leveraged, and during this pandemic, over leverage will be penalized. So this is again from a financial hat point of view, not exactly from an advertising hat point of view, right? So I do feel companies which are over leveraged and are not able to contain cost will kind of go through that churn, because print is a very cost heavy, and because I've been into print advertising for 5 years, I know that the cost intensive of that print medium is quite heavy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's brutal, right?
it's brutal.
And it's kind of amazing. The point you mentioned, right, that India has the worst lockdown right now.
Yes,
And obviously, print sort of remains that industry which has been hit. Like probably sort of is going hand in hand with travel and hospitality in
right,
terms of the impact that they're sort of seeing right now.
right.
In fact, I remember Sarah mentioning that the worst impact that they had seen in the CPMs was around 30%, 50%, 50% max, right? And
Yeah,
here in India, I've had publishers confessing that the Google CPMs are down by 70%,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Forget anything else, right?
yeah,
And the severity of lockdown sort of just sort of speaks for itself. That how uh, you know across geos the patterns look so different. Right?
yeah, yeah.
Super interesting. Okay, so before I sort of throw you, before we throw the floor open for questions, right? I have one last question for you, right? Uh, so we ask our speakers for their reading list or their watching list, right? Depending upon what's your flavor personally, right? So what are you reading on your Kindle, or what are you watching on Netflix?
Okay. So with two kids, it's definitely difficult to have some time. However, I'm doing a lot of LinkedIn learning sessions. You might see a lot of posts on my LinkedIn profile being added. Right, like yesterday I did leadership, body language. Right, so different kind of LinkedIn learning sessions. I really find them very interesting. I mean, to develop your soft skills slightly. Right, so those things are really interesting to me. And with OutBrain, luckily we have access to LinkedIn Learning. So I'm doing a lot of that. Next, Netflix, I'm waiting to watch Money Heist once I get time from my kids. But I'm spending a lot of time with my family. Yeah, and reading wise, definitely a lot of market. I do follow Money Control and Economic Times a lot, and I also follow New York Times and Financial Express a lot. So all these publications are where my interests are. So reading a lot around that.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, really insightful conversation.
Thank you.
So we're going to throw the floor open for questions, guys. If you have any questions for Sandeep, feel free to sort of put them on the chat. Sandeep has, I think, 15 years plus of experience across advertising, as an industry, digital, print, put together. He's worked with brands, he's worked with agencies, he understands the whole ecosystem in and out. He's on the whole 9 yards, right? Sandeep, I have those three questions for you ready here. The first one is native ads work on CPC, which is way less than current market working on CPM. How do you convince publishers to try to move to CPC model? Very technical, very tactical.
Yeah.
Feel free. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, not only native ads, I think Google, Facebook also works on CPC model on the advertiser side. On the publisher side, we, as a platform, optimize it to an effective CPM, right? So, what publishers see on their dashboard is the effective CPM. So, we kind of back calculate it for the publisher. The tech automatically back calculates it for the publisher. And on their dashboard, they do not need to take the headache of what CPC works from them, but because they see it on the CPM model only. So we, in OutBrain terms, we call it revenue per 1,000 impressions, because it's known as RPM, and it is dependent on the placements on the publisher website. So yeah, for publisher, nothing changes. Life is still CPM.
Perfect. Okay. Ads coming on native from native platforms are often viewed as spammy, like weight loss, high income ads. What are your plans to overcome this challenge, as nowadays people are smart enough to understand what's relevant and not relevant for them? Yeah,
absolutely. So OutBrain has taken quite a strict stance over these kind of spammy ads. Definitely, what has happened is, especially in the Indian context, we have had like 7 players competing for the same pie. And we, as I said, India is a very different market from what global markets work on, right? So I mean, we have had, I wouldn't like to name the players, but we have had 7 players exactly in this market, and every player attracting 2 large publishers. People have had a bad experience with some of these publishers. Many of the times, publishers have moved to these players for say 6 months, but due to the low quality, they have come back to OutBrain, and I'm talking about really big name of publishers, right? And these publishers are coming back to OutBrain just for the quality, not even for the money, right? So, I mean, publishers are very conscious. There are publishers who have moved initially for maybe the revenue or dollar revenue that they get in terms of minimum guarantees. But due to the quality, we have seen a lot of publishers coming back once they realize that, as a publisher, they are responsible to the users as well. And OutBrain has been very conscious of the user journey, as I mentioned at the start of the call. So for us, users come first. And as a business, we have taken many hard calls of not accepting a lot of revenue where the user experience gets impacted. So yeah, I mean, we have been pretty cautious of that.
got it. No, I remember OutBrain has generally been harsher than usual on the advertiser side. On the creative quality, on the copy and the messaging, sort of keep it clean and simple.
We wouldn't call it harsh. I mean, because the usual has been so bad, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You feel that it's harsh.
I've
we would
seen.
say it's a good standard to maintain.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, in the right intent, right? That harsher for the right, harsher for the better experience, of course, for the end user.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, we have faced challenges where advertisers have come back to us and said that the other guy is accepting. Why are you guys not accepting it? So experiences have been there.
True. That problem just, it never leaves us, right? Usne kiya to maine kyun nahi kiya.
Absolutely.
All right. If ads appearing on real estate doesn't give conversion, what step do you take? Again, too tactical, but go on.
So yeah, if the ad appearing on real estate doesn't convert, right? So I would say, I mean, it is basis on a lot of things. Like we have had one of the biggest real estate clients using pin code targeting very effectively, right? So it depends whether you have just targeted the entire network randomly. We'll need to understand details of your campaigns, but pin code targeting, like I'll give you an example where one real estate client had a project in Thane, right? So he used Thane and nearby areas to target that particular project, and he got great results, and he's spending, I would say, over $40,000 a month with us. So that is the kind of conversions they are getting. But yeah, we would need to understand what your campaign details are, because if you have targeted network in general, it wouldn't work, because it depends on where your projects are, where your investors sit, what kind of investors actually convert for you. So all those details, you guys are the expert on how to work on that.
Got it. All right. So obviously, uh, just like travel and print, real estate is also going to be in a rip stage, right? The
Absolutely.
industry will rest in peace for quite some time now, right?
Absolutely. But one thing I can just add on, iZooto as a publisher works really well on real estate. So we have tested that. So just letting you know, Vivek. So
Awesome. Thanks for that, Sandeep. Really, really insightful. Thanks for the conversation. Super fun, super light,
thanks for
super
having me.
candid as well, right? We will have the recording out, I think, by tomorrow sometime,
Okay.
right? I'll sort of put it up. I'll send it to you as well. Feel free to sort of share it in your network on your
Sure.
socials, right?
Sure.
And hope to have you back again soon with
Thanks a lot, Vivek.
with a different topic, right?
Absolutely.
And going more aggressive on later, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry. Thank you, Sandeep.
Pleasure
Thank you
to
so
be
much.
here. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Thanks.